Can a private investigator charge a non-refundable retainer up front before he or she works the case? Hi, this is Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com and the creator of the Investigator's Ultimate Guide series, which is premium private investigator training from someone who's been there and done that. The short answer, can you charge a non-refundable retainer up front? Yes, and that comes from having been there, done that. If you do not charge something up front and make it non-refundable, a lot of times the clients that come to you off the street, sometimes what I refer to as the onesie twosie people, the clients, they are not as vested in the investigation as you are, which sounds odd because you would think they absolutely want to get to the bottom and get the truth, and they do. But they are spending a good amount of money, and for some people it's more money. Even though it's the same amount, it may feel like a lot more money to them, or it may take them a lot longer to earn that money. So they're very reluctant to spend that money if something's not going to go really well. So more importantly than do you, can you, should you, let's talk about how you charge a non-refundable retainer. Now, I don't do this for a lot of the things that I've done. Process serving, or there's no such reason for repeat clients for that. I just don't do it. If you have a workers' compensation company that you work for regularly, sometimes things are going to fall through, sometimes they're not, but you've got a long-term client who understands what we do and the results that they're going to get. But when people come to you off the street, they call you up, they found you, your website or whatever it is, a lot of times it starts out with a question: how much do you charge for surveillance? And surveillance cases are largely what I'm talking about here. And in my Investigator's Ultimate Guide to Surveillance, I talk about how to work through that whole conversation on the phone, where they start out as price shoppers and how you can turn them into clients, exactly what to say and how to handle that. But there comes a point when they've decided to hire you where you have to talk about a retainer and a non-refundable retainer. And what I've done is told them, depending on the length of surveillance that they're looking for, what the overall cost should be. So maybe they just want Saturday morning from 7 a.m. till, say, noon. A gentleman calls, he wants his wife followed. He thinks that she's meeting with another man. So there's an example of quite a few hours. What is that, about 5 hours at, say, $65 an hour or so. That's a large chunk of change. For something like that, I would say, look, there's a $250 non-refundable retainer for this. Or maybe you want to do a $200 non-refundable retainer. Look at things like, what is your minimum? If you work a 3-hour minimum for surveillance, that 3-hour minimum makes a really nice little retainer there. So again, at $65 an hour, if they want you for 5 hours, say, look, there's a $200, which is roughly your 3 hours of rate, $200 non-refundable retainer. If they want you just for 3 hours, and a lot of people will take advantage of just whatever your minimum length of time is, then the whole thing up front. I'm going to charge all 3 hours up front, non-refundable retainer. And here's the trick, though. Not a trick. Here's the thing. You explain to them why, because it legitimately, I think you owe them that explanation. And the thing is, you say, this holds the time for you. No other client is going to come in and take your Saturday morning from 7 to noon. That is exclusively for you. If something happens and you have to back out, I have turned down business for that. I can't just be doing that. So it's reasonable to charge that retainer up front, a non-refundable retainer. But you have to make it very clear to the client. Look, that's no matter what happens. If she decides Friday night, oh, I'm going to spend the weekend at my sister's, there's no calling and saying we can cancel Saturday morning. You can cancel it, but there's still that non-refundable retainer part. If something comes up with your family and both you and your wife have to fly out of town for something, still, we won't be doing the surveillance on Saturday morning, of course, but still that non-refundable retainer is in place because we've turned down work from other clients. So yes, you can charge a non-refundable deposit, a non-refundable retainer for the work you're going to do. I encourage it, especially on those onesie-twosie surveillances. and just be very clear and precise with people about there are all sorts of extraordinary circumstances that might come up, but the retainer stays. That's just the way it is. This is Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com. Remember, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing.